Wow, that's new. And welcome to the Black Advancement. I'm your host / moderator, Ajiman Jasante Goodman, and today we're going to be addressing the topic of victimhood. On the screen I have with me today, I think I'm going to do it reverse. TJ Goodman.
Hey.
Antoine Smallwood. I think I'm doing this right. I'm not sure.
What's up?
Brandon Coney, COO. And Greg Goodman. And we are Dateline. No, I'm just playing. Black Advancement, before I get into that, let me tell you what Black Advancement is all about. Black Advancement is a nonprofit organization that looks to combat the problems within the Black community through action and dialogue, this being the dialogue portion. So before we get into the topic today, I'm gonna hit you with the front street. Ever since the freedom of Black people, we have been denied rights, denied property, denied jobs, denied education, denied reparations, all these denials, so on and so forth, since slavery happened, before and after. And on it goes. For these rejections and delays to our full citizenship, along with our continued slight from a system that seemingly is opposed to everything that we do here, our existence, mere existence in America, there has been a consistent and bothersome narrative about Black people's circumstances within America. This narrative of Black victimhood, quote unquote, this is a theory that Black people use undeniable tragedies of the past and the present as a crutch for their failures and inability to thrive within America today. Personally, I've seen this talking point come up a lot of times in a bevy of different debates that I've had, and debates on anything from policing to the wealth gap, to the education gap, to any other gap, whatever gaps you want to name. But rarely have I ever seen the conversation be the centerpiece itself, of the centerpiece being like Black victimhood itself. So we're here to give this topic its due, or at least give it its own discussion, and decide whether Black victimhood is a legit issue, and if it is, if it's helping to destroy the Black community. So with that being said, this is symposium rules as opposed to our roundtable, where I would ask a question first. I will open up the floor first. If no one has anything to say, then I'll jump in with a question. Nothing heard. I'll come up with a question first. Do you think Black people have a victim mindset?
That's kind of a tricky one. And the reason why I say that is because the way that I understand it, victim mentality, what that really entails is, what happened?
Oh, you're good.
I can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, we can still hear you.
All right, sorry, something jumped up on my screen, sorry about that. Victim mentality kind of entails continuing to display attitudes or still have the belief that you're the victim, even when presented with evidence to the contrary, right? At least that's what I think victim mentality is. Like, no matter what the circumstances, even though it's shown that you're not a victim, you still believe that you are. Okay. Go ahead.
No, I said that's fair.
So I don't know. I can't think of an instance anyway that I've seen, like in a personal situation where somebody that was Black felt like a victim and was given sufficient evidence to prove that they weren't being hated on or discriminated against or anything like that because they were Black. So to me, it's kind of a tricky one to say victim mentality, because until there's sufficient proof given or shown that you are not being oppressed, I'll say.
Well, Obama was president. I mean, what do you mean?
Yeah, that had nothing to do with me or the person who's working at Walmart or whatever.
You guys got Black Panther. I mean, give it up.
Yeah, exactly.
Hold on.
Go
ahead. Sorry.
I think that what people are confusing as what was the word?
Victimhood. Victimhood is what I'm calling it.
Okay, I think what people are confusing victimhood with Blacks is us acknowledging that we're victims. There's a difference. You know what I mean? If we understand and can see where the problems lie, and we're telling you these problems and where they lie, and you don't believe us, and they're changing that to victimhood instead of us recognizing that we're victims. In fact, a lot of what they're doing at this point in time in history is it's more projection of their own lives. They're the ones that are actually in a victimhood state at this point, because there are several whites, in particular, white men that are lower class white men that believe that they're the victims of racism in this country. They believe that they are the most oppressed people in this country because, well, and I've had these conversations with them, and most of the time it's because they say that they aren't allowed to say anything anymore. And that is their version of being victims in racism in this country.
But they want to be that badly. That's why you hear this whole thing about wokeness and cancel culture, which really isn't that, right? So like, I think there's a difference between somebody having been victimized without it being acknowledged. And I think that plays on a group of people's mind, in this case, Black people, for many years, because it's happened for so long that, yes, some people do struggle to come out of that mindset. But I do think that ultimately at the end of the day, TJ made an excellent point. There's no evidence to the contrary that we haven't been victims. And the problem is that until there's the folks who did the victimizing willing to acknowledge that, it's going to be harder for some people to actually come out and just say, you know what, maybe I'm not, you know? And even though it wasn't you directly, it affected where you are today in some form or fashion.
Yeah, you're 100% right. I mean, it even goes as the like here's a prime example of this so-called victimization that they're trying to suppress, is when it comes to this whole critical race theory thing. Now, I myself would not understand why you would not want to learn the actual history of this country, because if you don't learn it, you're bound to make those mistakes again. But the reason that they won't teach these things is because they don't want to feel bad about what they've done. So now people that want to teach you about the past and how racist it was are being called racist for wanting you to understand racism. It's weird, you know. It's a weird thing to not want to figure out how this is going on, because at some point, if I were white, with only having surface knowledge, I'd be like, how are these group of people all in this situation? It's only them. So all that they have to go on is what they think they know in the present is, which is a bunch of stereotypes: lazy, don't want to work, good for nothing. But they aren't willing to go back and learn and understand how a group of people end up in a situation that they're in. And in all honesty, the fact that it's only, how long have we had all our rights in this country? 50 years, 60 years?
60 to maybe 70 now, right? It's 20,
close to, okay, let's just say 70. The fact that we have people that have only had their rights for 70 years, and we have a couple of billionaires in this country, is a testament to how amazing we actually are. You know what I'm saying? Hmm. So it's one of those things that they feel victimized, that they want to learn, that they'll feel victimized for having to learn the truth about their past. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
go ahead, Antoine. I'm sorry.
No, I just wanted to get this off real quick. Piggyback on what Greg is saying, it bothers me. Recently, I think they just had to have another vote to pass for Black people to even have the right to vote, right?
Yeah.
Nobody's even talking about that from the perspective of when you talk about like victimhood, like, why is that still a thing? Why is there no permanent stature that, hey, you guys are human beings too, and you live here and you should be able to vote and go to school where you want, and et cetera, et cetera. But it's little sneaky shit like that where, oh, we don't know what we're doing. But behind the scenes, this system has still been in place for so long. And it's still almost like a toying of things where, hey, you guys showed up to vote. Well, guess what? Now we're going to have some voter suppression in broad daylight. Nobody's doing anything, to massively say, hey, ring the alarm. Do you realize what's going on? It's like saying, hey, Ach, the Goodman brothers, play by these sets of rules. But guess what? Me and Brandon Comey, we're going to play by these sets of rules right here. And like publicly, we're going to make sure everybody thinks that we're all on the same page. But really, me and Comey have the upper hand here and have for quite some time. We're just making a public, make it feel that you guys have the same equal opportunities and equity be across the board. And it doesn't.
And on top of that, we haven't even this country hasn't even acknowledged how specific the targeting is. There has been an anti-lynching bill going on
Jesus.
for I don't know how long.
Exactly.
A couple of Asian people get rolled on, and they cleared that up in a heartbeat. Boom. And I'm not upset with the Asians. Good for you. But if you can't acknowledge that point, then how can you not acknowledge that we're victims? It's not a victimhood thing at this point. This is what it is. You know
Because it goes back to this theme of, hey, X, Y, and Z person is killed by a police officer, right? Now, the whole world knows that job is a tough job, no matter what you do, how you slice that pie. Cool. Somehow they only keep putting bullets in who? Black people, right? Nobody's telling them, hey, stop killing Black people. It's, oh, first you should comply. Then they show a video you've compliant. Oh, well, you shouldn't have did this. Well, this person didn't do that. Oh, well, I don't know. We need to figure something out. But yeah, this is just not great. Like, what? What the fuck is that? Like, that doesn't help anything. That's not acknowledging the actual problem. It's not highlighting that, hey, there's a group of folks who are there, okay, who don't have any business being there, who know they have no business being there, and they're going to continue these actions, which have been going on your lifetime, my lifetime, my parents, grandparents' lifetime. And at some point, enough is enough. So it's like, when people talk about victimhood, you have to talk about the person who's actually doing the abusing in that case, whether it be mental, whether it's behind the scenes on different levels of stuff, I mean, it goes literally through almost every aspect of life. I read a heartbreaking story the other day about a little girl that was talking to, now she's not a little girl, but her parent was the one talking about it in Brooklyn, playing at a play party, fucking kids, 4 years old, okay? And the white kid came out and said some crazy shit. I'm not going to repeat, right? To this, that you only could have gotten from your parents. And then the parents come out with this fucking 4. My daughter's 4. You know what I'm saying? Kids they just want to play. They just want to have fun. And this was a play party where some racism reared its head, and the parents come to the defense like, oh, no, not us. Where did she get this from? Barney didn't tell her this. You know what I'm saying? This wasn't fucking
watching
from the left.
It's these kids nowadays, them in a critical race theory. I think so. But no, like from the standpoint of like
one other point that I wanted to make about the whole victimhood thing too is I'm not crazy enough to say that we've made no advancement at all. Okay, Blacks have made advancements in this country, but the difference is the amount of time it takes for Black people to be acknowledged and taken care of is what's bothersome, because the gays, they roared up and then 10 years later it's all good. You know what I'm saying? They got a grown man winning Woman of the Year. Like it's quick. With the Asian thing that happened, it was quick. With us, it's always a struggle, and it's a long, hard fought struggle. And that's the part that may be where the victimhood mentality comes from. Because it's such a hard struggle for us to get our point across. And it's such an obvious thing that you're seeing. Our victimhood is so obvious that it's weird that it would take as long as it would when it's so obvious that it's happening.
Yeah.
You know what's fucked up about it? I know, Ad, you're going to say something, but is that there's so many different areas that you can kind of go in with this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So you don't even know where to start with the conversation because of all the victimizing that's taking place,
Yeah. Go ahead, Coney.
Actually having a conversation with somebody about just that, what Antoine said, is there are so many holes, there are so many deficits, there are so many different things that are wrong with society as it pertains to Black people. Where do you start? And, we talk about the struggle and how long it takes, and got into this conversation as well. Why is it that it takes us so long to be able to get through things? Is it because we don't have a clear defined voice? Is it because we don't have a clear defined leader? Is it because we don't have a clear defined objective? And I'm just looking at it from the standpoint of being Black. So we have 5 Black men here right now. All 5 of us could look at how to tackle 3 issues in 5 different ways. And then how do you come about making effective change when you have 5 different ideologies or 5 different ways on how to be able to solve something? I think that too has helped hold us back from the advancement, not only that we need that everyone's right. To a quick earlier point, those in power want to keep power so that they can continue writing the narrative how they see it. They do that for a reason. It's so that he who holds the pen holds the mightiest power. Because history is just that, it's written. And if you take away somebody's ability to write history the way that they, then they'll be able to change the narrative, and it will paint them in a completely different picture. I have conversations literally, I think last week, about white guilt, how real it is. And funny about it, I said, look, I will take all of your white guilt. You want to give my school $5,000, a bunch of poor Black history? Give it to me. I'll take it. I'll take every single dime of it. I will spend it well. But I mean, it's a real thing. And it's a real thing because there are groups of people in this country who realize just how badly Black people have been treated.
Well, you know,
Go ahead. Right.
Hold on, let me make one real quick point here. And this is why Blacks have a victimhood mentality in this country, or a perception of it. Now on this panel, right now, there are 4 college graduates and 1 former military service member, not just a military service member, a former military police service member. And if we go out in the streets, everyone is going to judge us as the lowest of niggas. That's where the victimhood comes from. Because we're treated, not everyone here can get harassed and pulled over just based on what we look like, plain and simple.
True story. I almost got arrested on Thursday night.
Exactly. But like I said, just by looking at us, someone who looks at this, and I think there was a comment in there before saying, I wonder how many of these people aren't taking care of their children. And they've said things of this nature. Mm-hmm. Everyone here is married. Everyone here is taking care of their child. Everyone here has a full-time job, not only a full-time job, a career. Everyone is a tax-paying citizen. Nobody here has ever been in jail. And the first question is questioning what kind of man we are based on the color of our skin. No more, no less.
You got to understand, we're the racist for having an organization that has Black in it, Black in the name.
You're right. That's 100% racist.
Well,
These are the questions that are asked upon us with no other thing going on other than we're Black. Now, that would be like me looking at any white person and immediately assuming that they're a racist and they're on pills. Immediately. I don't have to know anything else about you. White skin, racist pill popper. That's my limit. Until you prove to me otherwise, that's what I think of you. And that's just not the case.
No comment. I mean, where do I go? TJ, were you about to say something? And then
I was just going to make the point that all of the, like, everything that's been discussed so far and how Blacks are being treated. I mean, I guess you'd have to be living under a rock or something, or have never read a thing about America to not understand that one of the cornerstones that the country was built on was racism. But I was, the point that I was going to make is there's a difference between being a full citizen, being a second-class citizen, being a third-class citizen, and being seen as you shouldn't be here, right? And I think a lot of times with us, we're seen as, what are you doing here? You know, these other people can, it's a bit easier for other groups to get things through because I don't think they're seen with the same kind of vitriol that we are. People look at us and tell us to go back to some place that, I don't even know how far back in each of our families that Africa is, but nobody that I've ever talked to in my family remembers that time, right? So going back to Africa is not really an option for most of us. But that's the kind of that's the lens that we're viewed through. So it's going to be a lot more difficult for us to get things done when we're seen as not second class, not third class, but you need to get out of here.
Right.
That was the only point I was going to make.
To that point, I actually got into it with a guy Oh, this is probably in April. Long story short, got into a discussion and got a little heated. He was like, why don't you go back to Africa? I'm like, well, I was actually born in Michigan. And I, most recently claimed North Carolina. I said, let's talk about that for a second. How long has your family been in this country? He was like, I'm second generation. I'm like, I can trace my lineage back in this country 5 generations. So you're here, I should be telling you to take your ass back somewhere. Like, I'm more of an American than you are. So and that always, I don't want to say aggravated, but it always made me laugh. And also angered me at the same time. They'd be like, go back to Africa. My people didn't choose to come here voluntarily. Like, it's not like I'm like, oh, you know what? Let me go ahead and hop on this cruise ship, land somewhere down in Virginia and enjoy this nice vacation. You telling me to go back, motherfucker? I didn't ask to come here in the first place.
Family show, Tony. Family show.
All right, my bad.
Look, next time somebody tells you that, sir, you just ask them where they're from, and wherever they're from, just be like, well, they're not bringing their best. Because
that's tough.
just use the word.
I like that. I love it.
I do too.
Like, obviously, Ireland's not bringing their best, or wherever you're from.
That's tough. That's
Because
tough.
they weren't bringing because the best never leave. Why would you
There
leave
it
with
is.
the best?
There it is.
The best never leave. They only get taken from places. Anyway,
There it is.
well, but from back to something that you had said earlier, Greg, about the critical race theory, and I'd had this discussion with Greg and a couple other people before, and probably you guys in passing. I'm almost positive, but like the idea of something like critical race theory, the reason why even if they did teach it in grade school, which they don't, even if they did,
Law school.
yeah, but well, from the way that they look at it, anything that touches racism is critical race theory, right? So even basic history that people should know just to understand the United States of America. But the reason why they want to take all that stuff out is the same reason why the Daughters of the Confederacy wanted all that lost cause narrative crap in. You know what I'm saying? And that's because when you come to a kid, if you find a kid who is almost all kids, their one premise of life is always fairness. The one thing that a kid always complains about if something goes wrong, he's like, but that's not fair. She'll say, but that's not fair, right? So when they learn a history of people who all this stuff has happened, there's no way in the world where if you had a generation of kids who learned the truth about it, say, I wonder why Black people didn't get reparations. I wonder why Black people haven't been able to be allowed to vote. I wonder why we didn't do this. I wonder why we didn't do that. Because if you allow them that lane, then they're going to take the right road. And the right road is completely counter to the way this whole thing has been established. So that's the first part. The second part is that I think the most American people around are Black people, unfortunately. We are like the American story. We are the story of people who made it through all kinds of pain and struggle, and yet we strived, and yet we survived, and yet we made it this far, right? And that brings me to my third and final point, which is that these people who are the people who have the biggest complaint about Black people and victimhood and all this other stuff, they get mad, I think, mostly because they want our story. Like they want to be the ones who have oppressed and overcome time and time again and done it in a way that was great. Now, we've seen what's happened in the past few years. You think that if white people went through even a portion of the stuff that we went through, this country would be not smoldering, not burning?
Yeah.
It would be a complete and utter disaster. They didn't win an election fairly, and they almost overthrew the country.
A fucking coup.
Yeah, they almost did a coup.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like C-O-U-P. You know what I mean? Like they top.
Well, to counter your point, Mitch McConnell actually did say that we got our reparations. We got our Black president for 8 years. That was our reparations. Black people got the reparations according to Mitch.
That's right. Yeah. Well, you know.
That's ballsy.
Yeah, that's McConnell. You know.
like
he is that.
Yeah.
I give him that. Give him credit for that.
Mitch McConnell, I mean, I don't like him at all, but he's not a dummy. He's a very smart man. He's a very smart dude.
I wouldn't say smart. I'd say corrupt. You know,
he's definitely that.
Like I said, you can't be corrupt this long without being smart.
That's that. I got to double down on that.
I counter with this. Anyway, so that's you see who they got in Congress, man? This dude Matt Gaetz, you think he's smart? I don't think he's smart.
No, I don't think he's
No.
smart.
No,
I think McConnell's smart.
Yeah.
I didn't say Matt Gaetz was smart.
I understand, but I don't think McConnell's smart either. I don't want this to turn into a political discussion. Point is that, but I want I'll try to take this in another direction. And from what everyone says, it's probably a bad question, but I'm going to ask it anyway because I wrote it down. I did the prep. I mean, what do you want me to do? Do you think that Black people are justified in feeling like victims?
Absolutely. I mean, it's. We've talked about it before, and we've had conversations about this. This country is over 400 years old. We did not have the ability to be looked at as full-time citizens the last 68 years. The fact that we are where we are with the limited amount of time that we've had to do it. Absolutely. Yes, and yes, sir.
All right. I mean,
I can answer this real simple. In any country where you were enslaved longer than you're being free, of course you're going to feel victimized. We were in slavery much longer than we've been free. So with that comes a victimized mentality.
I mean, Obama. I mean, Shell. Malia. Shell. So it's, I don't know, man. That kind of weighs it out. No, I mean, honestly, okay. So here, I'll try to play not devil's advocate, but I'll try to look at it from a perspective of where people kind of come from with this. There's a lot of Black people who have family that can't get right? Everybody got people in their family that's just on some can't get right, and you'll have the one Black person who kind of like everybody in the family goes to, who's found a way to get right, gets money and is stable and all this stuff, and a lot of people he has to become like he or she, I should say, become like the de facto head of the family in one way or another. I don't necessarily think that that's the way with anybody in here, but that is a generalization of some of the conditions of Black people. Mm. Those are the type of guys that I've had these conversations with who are Black, who are like, yo, they're saying that they can't get this and that. I mean, like you're living off the government teat. You're doing this, you're doing that. Don't hate, get a plate. They do that kind of thing where they kind of summarize like people's struggle, saying like, I know struggle, and I lived through struggle. That person just ain't shit, kind of thing. It's like that's how they look at it, right? So that it's a totally different thing to them, right? They're like, look, my cousin Leon, he a cool dude, but he ain't shit. He ain't shit. Like that's how they look at it. And there's like, because of that, you can't come over to me talking about I'm a victim. Now, to me personally, I'm like, I would love a world where I could look at Leon as this Leon, but that's not how the world looks at him. You know what I mean? And that's not how the world treats him. The world doesn't treat him just as Leon. They treat him as Black Leon, as opposed to white Leon or white Jerome, like Jerry Seinfeld is. So that's neither here or there. TJ, you said that you look like you were about to say something.
I was gonna ask. So was the question meant for us to respond in a way that talks about feeling like a victim and allowing that to dictate your behavior in a way that makes you not try?
I'll take the credit and say yeah. Sure.
Because I mean, I think Greg and Brandon laid it out, pretty clear. It's like, okay, well, you can point out thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of instances where Blacks have been victims. So of course you're going to feel like one. Of course you're justified in feeling like one. But of course, a person who is a striver and survivor, like you were talking about, is going to say, yeah, I mean, I was a victim, but I'm not going to stay down. I'm going to get up. I'm going to scratch and strive and do something to myself. And these other people are not doing that.
Right. This is where the conversation kind of generated from. At least for me, that's where it starts from. Go ahead, Greg.
When it comes to that, I'm sorry. Go ahead, TJ.
No, please go ahead.
Well, like when it comes to that, it's pretty simple. I mean, because in every group of people, there's an ain't shit population. You know what I'm saying? It's just what it is. The problem with our situation is we all get judged on the ain't shit population. That's what the problem is.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that people don't even realize is that, you know, our welfare system, the majority of people who are on it are white. They're not us. But whenever, I believe it was Nancy Reagan who termed the quote
welfare queens.
and about, she was talking about, you know, the Black woman living in government assisted housing with 4 kids by 3 different men and living off the government. Although actuality, white people make up the majority of people who are on government. And it's all about stereotypes. It's all about how we are perceived. And, you know, like both TJ and Greg says that, especially Greg, we get judged by the worst of the worst. And that's how we are grouped in. We, you know, again, literally swear to you, almost got arrested on Thursday, got into it with a couple of cops. I was not in the right. I will admit that I was parked in a loading zone, but I was there for 2, doesn't matter. I was wrong. How could I get into it? But we're getting into it. He's like, you know, what are you doing here? What are you doing driving this car? I'm like, this is my car. Like, well, why is it here? And I stopped. And we almost get into it. But again, he's looking at me as, fuck you doing driving around in the Range Rover in downtown Pittsburgh, coming from a cigar bar where it costs $80 a cigar and $30 a drink. What are you doing coming from here? And I'm like, again, don't get me started. I will take this over and we will have a whole march on the Pittsburgh Police Department.
But that's what Greg's point is highlighting, though. There's no benefit of the doubt there, right? You're being judged by the absolute worst.
Right.
The question that I pose always is, what are we going to do about that, right? Because we're always on our heels, seemingly as a people playing defense, trying to just get through, just, you know, head above water, as opposed to embracing all. So like that cousin Leon who just can't fucking get right, or if his friends or whatever, how do we make it where we're kind of helping everybody to kind of rise with and change the narrative? Because the narrative, whether it's a Nancy Reagan who has no right to say anything, we won't go there right now, but it's just one of those things where you're like, oh shit, you know, narrative is the most powerful thing, because if you get people to buy into it, I see a lot of our people spouting those same stereotypes, and we're lazy, we're this, we're that, you know how we do bullshit, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, yo, at the end of the day, we know who we are as a people. But how do we take that and utilize that to our advantage, despite the system being designed the way that it is, and despite the fact that we know all of the issues and the problems, but from a solutioning standpoint, how do we overcome that? Because if you take the 5 people who are here, everybody here, I think, has a growth mindset. Everybody has their own way that they live life and develop, and will continue to do so throughout the course of their lives and impact their families positively. But everybody doesn't have that kind of thing. How do you help those folks to see the light and understand that it's possible?
That's why the organization, that's a hard question too, man.
This is the thing about that, though. It's not gonna happen.
Okay? Yeah, that's our show, folks. That's our show. We like to thank everybody for watching.
It's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen because this country is not designed for everyone to win. Okay, it's not designed for everyone to win. For one, and here's the other part of that. Think about this, Antoine. Cousin Leon can't get it together, right? There are white people who have been in this country for 400 years whose bloodline is broke, okay? They have had all the opportunities. For 400 years, they were the only ones allowed to get a job, work, and earn money, and they're still broke, okay? They're broke, all right? Now, if that is possible, then Uncle Leon or Cousin Leon or Tony, whoever it is going to end up broke too at some point. It's just what it is. It's just how the country's designed. Yeah. Not everyone's going to succeed. Somebody got to take out the trash. That's all I'm saying. Somebody,
and that's fine.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with taking out the trash.
That's it. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's just this way the country's designed. Not everyone's going to be, you know, some of us are going to be in the Jetsons. Some of us is going to be Flintstones. It's just the way the country is designed. Okay, so we can't drag up everyone. What we can make sure is that while uncle or nephew or whoever, Curtis, ain't being shit, he has every right to be ain't shit and not be accosted for ain't being shit.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So not necessarily the capitalism tip of things, right? Definitely everybody is not going to be everywhere at the same time on that. But just being able to have your right to live life however that you choose to do that.
I understand. I understand what you're saying, Antoine. I mean, I'm not saying that Greg misunderstood it, but I know what you mean. Like, it's not necessarily about people.
Did I misunderstand it?
No. I don't think you
No,
did.
no, no.
I don't think you did. No. I'm just saying, like, I don't think he means like everybody being winners, as in like from a financial standpoint or from a whatever. He's more so talking about a mentality of everybody being on the same page as far as going towards a solution to combat the stuff that's going on. Like,
I will also tell you as well that too will never happen.
And that's our show.
But again, it's not going to happen on a couple different levels. It's systemic. You know, it is ingrained. It is innate. You know, we talked about it earlier. You know, when Antoine brought up the story of the party, it's taught. And at the end of the day, until you can get people to stop teaching the wrong stuff, which is never going to happen, then it's never going to change. I mean, how can it change? If everybody woke up tomorrow morning and none of us could remember a single thing from history, we don't know anything. And then we start learning right there. That's the only way it'll ever happen. It's the world is not designed, unfortunately, for it to be that everybody is on the same page collectively and or it's working towards the same. It's not
groupthink mentality, even though, Comey. I'm talking about just the right to be a human being, right? So I could walk into a place, I've done it before, head to toe, dressed like a motherfucker, and guess what? Get the exact treatment that Greg is talking about, and no justification of it across the board.
Right.
And when you confront the person on it, right? Guess what? Or a group of people, they have no fucking answer as to why they thought that way or approached you that way or whatever. And see, me, I'm with the shits. So if you approach me a certain way, I'll show you, look, let's go there then. And so then all of a sudden people are backing up. I'm sorry, it is. I could be dressed in a fucking hoodie that I got on now. Does not matter. You know what I'm saying? I could look like a crackhead. It does not matter. If I'm going into your store, that don't give you right to follow me around, doesn't give you right to come and try to disrespect any of the above. You know, because if you take the lowest white person, they can accidentally stumble into a place they have no fucking where being. And guess what? Nobody's going to accost them. They won't get shot. They still going to have rights to vote. You know, they probably can walk out of there with a free jug of milk and steal the shit and nobody would say nothing. And guess what? It's just the way the world has been designed for them. But for us, even at our best, we get questioned across the board on things. You know what I'm saying?
It goes back to
I came up with
it's the benefit of the doubt. It's the benefit of the doubt that we don't have.
Exactly.
They get.
And that's what white privilege is, benefit of the doubt.
That's
what white privilege is. It ain't got nothing to do with money. It ain't got nothing to do with situational whatever. It all has to do with benefit of the doubt. They are allotted the benefit of the doubt. We are not. We are guilty until proven innocent. They're innocent until proven guilty. That's what the difference is. And I told Aji, he knows my way of getting around people following you in the store. There's an easy solution to all this.
You can tell this story because it works. It works for this.
No, it's not. You ain't got to be violent. You ain't got to be loud. What you got to do is start putting them to work. That's what I do. They follow me around. I ask them the questions.
My man.
Them go get this. I make them go get that. And then I ask them to go above and beyond. Oh, I'm gonna need this shoe and all this colors, and I need to try them all on. And then I leave. You want to follow me? You about to earn your check today. You about to get stuff off the top shelf. You better have
You're absolutely right.
I'm about to ask you, try and walk away if you want to. Hold on, I'm not finished.
Not done yet. Come back. I need some more.
Exactly. Done. I need more help.
You clearly wanted to work, so let's get to work.
Well, he wanted to help you. Yeah.
Right.
Help me out.
Yep, sir, can I help you? You sure can. You sure can.
You can help me. As a matter of fact, if you can't help me, then I'm gonna have to talk to your manager because you shouldn't be working because you suck at your job.
Exactly.
So you ain't gotta get violent. You don't gotta get mad. Put them to work. And then they better be polite. You better be the most polite goddamn person on the planet when you're talking to me. If not, I'm talking to your manager ASAP.
Yep.
ASAP.
I respect
you. The trap of it all for me personally is that my love of humanity is that I think that I hope one day us as a people would always try to pull it together. Like, I don't care. I can't change a racist mind. That's never been my mindset. But I want us as a people to understand that we don't just have greatness in us, but hey, go out, make that shit happen together. And I've seen it where you open somebody's eyes who may not have thought about things a certain way before or thought about a certain approach. Once they begin down that road, it's addictive. You know what I'm saying? And now that's the thing that changes the narrative, because now all of a sudden you have a group of people not necessarily thinking the same way, but just thinking of their own self. Hey, I'm giving myself the benefit of the doubt. I'm giving myself grace. I'm giving myself the opportunity to know that, hey, I can do X, Y, and Z, and here's some approaches that would happen despite the bullshit that's out there. Because when you're browbeaten down, and it's a lot of those narratives that come at us, there's a lot of people who buy into it. A lot of people are not as mentally strong as one might think. And so when you showcase that, hey, let all that slide together. It's almost what we talked about yesterday in the movie thing where the lady was going through all those things, but nothing stopped her from getting to her goal. You know what I'm saying? She knew that everything was happening, and that's what happens. You wake up every day, you're black, you're black, you're black, you're black, we all black. We know that. We know everything that comes with that is what I mean.
Exactly. Like,
but
this is
you still got to go.
I had to explain to a white dude that I was working with. I was like, you want to know what it's like to be black? This is what you need to do. I need you to go on all your job interviews in a lime green suit.
This is different than mine, but go ahead. I'll do mine.
Every job
you do
interview in a
yours
lime
next,
green
CJ.
suit. You know how good you gotta be to get a job in a lime green suit? Do you know how on point you gotta be? You better be sharp. You gotta your toes like a midget at the urinals. You better be on it.
Oh
No, look, you can't say little, you can't say midget.
Oh, sorry, like a little
say that.
person.
Can't say that. No.
You get what I'm saying, though. That's what it's like to be black in this country. It's going, and you can't change your suit. Every interview, you better be in that lime green suit, and you better represent. You better come with it.
Yeah,
because that lime green suit, they're gonna look at him and be like, he is good, but that suit, I'm sure about this.
Yo, his judgment is off.
I'm wrong with that guy.
Yeah.
We'll test him out. See him. That's the suit. Because he sounds good. But that suit is
something else.
TJ, what's yours? That's a good example.
Yeah, I had a similar conversation. The lime green suit, that's pretty creative. I didn't think of that one. But what I had said to him was
brilliant.
I agree. I said the way I explained it is, I say, okay, if you want to know what it's like to be black, I need you to walk around everywhere with a ski mask on. That's what I need you to do. When you go in the stores, when you're walking down the street, when you're in the neighborhood, people see you with that ski mask. They're like, what you doing here?
What are you about to do here?
Assume you're going to do something bad.
Yeah.
And if you continue to frequent that area and people get to know you, they'll say, that guy in the ski mask is okay.
That guy, see, right there. Yep.
But the other people in ski masks, I still have suspicions about them.
Yep.
And that's what it's like to be black in this country, in you know, the way that it feels most of the time. Everywhere you go, you're under suspicion, right? And just because people accept you, Mr. Ski Mask, does not mean that they will accept the ski mask man next to you, right?
Fair enough.
They still suspect him. But
yours is probably better than mine.
I have a retort to both of these. Obama. All right. So,
you know,
hey, look, man.
Funny to say that, because what Antoine was saying, it reminded me of the comment you guys made earlier about Mitch McConnell saying that you guys got your reparations. Because, you know, Antoine, and you know, if I'm putting words in your mouth, let me know. But part of what he was talking about were, like, we get bombarded with influence from all over the place, right? From the time that you're a kid, like the influences that you get from all around you are going to be much more plentiful than the positive ones, maybe from your parents or your brother or your cousin or whatever, right? There's a lot more of those. And Mitch McConnell's comment, I was thinking about it based on what Antoine said. I was like, oh, maybe that's why he said that. It's like, even though we have made sure to bombard airwaves and everywhere else with these negative stereotypes and images, somehow this man still became president. You know,
sure did.
That's
like I said, I always use their logic against them when they tell me these things. Like, if somebody complains, if a white dude complains to me about money, I'm just like, dude, look at Bill Gates. You can't do that. I mean, Bill Gates did it. You should be all right. Look at Jeff. He started in his garage. Now he's here. What What's wrong with you?
Look at Jeff. Yo, I should get a shirt that says "Look at Jeff." Yeah.
Look at that.
In line
So-
period.
So real quick, just to go back to what TJ said, and he brought up a really good point. And it also goes back to what TJ said before, and also what Greg said and what Antoine said, is that, well, I didn't say that.
Yeah, I would say that. Obama.
But like, especially TJ, with the example you give about the ski mask, well, they looked at Obama as a different kind of black. Like, he was a different kind of black person. He was a different kind of black person who we could get behind. The rest of y'all went, still a little shaky, but he's different. And I think I remember having this discussion with Audrey a couple of, I actually think everybody was on the call. One of the ones we did before, and I was in high school, and maybe world history or U.S. history, either which way, got to a conversation about race and about how black people perceive versus whatnot and stuff. And this one girl, I'm not gonna call her name out because she sees this, she'll be embarrassed. It was 25 years ago. I don't care about her. That's not here nor there. But she started talking, not badly, but she was like, all the black kids, you see them doing this, you see them doing that. And it was more so on the negative side. She was like, there aren't that many black kids in honors or AP courses and stuff. And I'm like, you realize I'm right here, right? You realize I'm black and I'm right here. And she said to me, well, you're different. Like, you're not like them. You're different. I said, how am I different? And she was like, well, no, I said, tell me how I'm different. Like, how? Well, she was like, well, you're in AP class. I said, so what's it got to do with anything? I also play sports, just like your white boyfriend over there. I also do musicals. Like, how is it that you look at me one way and you look at them another way? And it also goes back to what TJ said. If they don't know you versus knowing you, it makes all the difference in the world. They get to know you, you're okay. The rest of y'all, I'm still going to look at you the same way I have before.
That's 100%. It's the and we have talked about this before, and that's the thing about the topics that we bring up. A lot of this stuff always feeds into the next thing. Like, a stereotype is just another way of starting a Black victimhood conversation. You know what I mean? If you talk about stereotypes, or you talk about the idea of someone acting Black, or you talk about any of that stuff, even if you talk about something like reparations, that can lead into a Black victimhood discussion where someone will say, well, you guys don't deserve reparations. I mean, like, one of the reasons, honestly, why America doesn't have something like free healthcare is because white people don't want Black people to have free healthcare.
Correct.
That's not even me saying that. That's the truth. That's like, they literally like, nah, we can't do that. Our population would go crazy if we allow these Black people. They subject to go crazy. You know what I mean? So like, they're not going to let us have free health.
They would say it's government overreach.
Well, I mean, but what I'm saying is that all of these things that we don't have in this country right now are because they don't want you to have it.
Yeah,
not because they don't think it's a bad thing. Because they'll say, well, what's the difference between Norway and us? So if you were smart, you would angle your population, you would angle it towards a population conversation, right? You'd be like, well, they have less people, so they can make more money and they can probably do these things. But that's not why Norway has it. Norway has it because nobody wants to live in cold ass Norway, and they're homogenous. They're all the same people. So they all understand each other's stuff, right? Where here we don't have that. We don't have a representation in the Senate for them to say something like, well, it'd be really important for us to pass this Voting Rights Act, so that way they could actually have the right to vote for us every time. Instead, they're going to let these, okay, this is turning into political. I'm going to try to get away from it for a second. But yeah, I did want to do one more thing and then we can wrap up, because I did have this conversation. I'm going to betray his confidence on the call with us with TJ. And I might be misquoting him, honestly. We were talking about reparations, and TJ wasn't necessarily against the idea of reparations, but he was against what would happen if we got reparations. And TJ, I don't know if you remember this or not.
I don't.
You're good. Okay, so I'll go into it and then you can correct me.
Okay.
And it'll definitely start a conversation. So we were talking about reparations and this and that. And TJ was like, because I was like, I said the same thing that I said about the whole critical race theory. I think you're starting to remember.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, the whole critical race theory thing, and how, it would be impossible for them not to give us that if the other generation understood completely what's been going on in this country, everything from redlining to slavery to so on and so forth. You keep going, black codes, blah, 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 right? And he was like, well, I don't necessarily think that would be a good idea for us to get reparations, because once they get reparations, all they're going to do is say, well, we gave you your money, right? And that's is the whole kind of thing of like the victim of they're like, yo, we gave you your money. Yeah, but you didn't fix voting. Yeah, but we gave you your money.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Yeah, but you didn't fix this. Yeah, but we gave you your money. Like you didn't fix the criminal justice system. You letting people go around shootings. Yeah, but we gave you $750K. I mean, what more do you want? You see, this is what I was talking about before. They're never satisfied. So that's where TJ was coming from. And I understood what he was saying.
Yeah.
And it hurt my soul. But you know,
I actually agree with him 100%.
I
don't want money. I want tangible assets, and I want effective. I want laws changed. I want tangible. I want free education. I want property. I want stuff to help build generational wealth. I want things so that once these reparations do come to pass, I won't have to worry about anything else around. I won't have to worry about you continue to screw me over with the system, because part of my reparations are fixing that system.
Mind if I jump in for a second?
Go ahead.
Let TJ go.
I'm only because I'm stuck there. The conversation is coming back to me now. The other thing that I remember saying was, I don't trust the way that the money would be, I guess, given to people.
Allocated.
Well, I mean, like think about what it takes to get a loan, right? Now, what do you think? What kind of documents do you think you'd have to produce in order to get reparations?
I know the document you have to produce. You have to get the funeral painting from the Cosby Show, because every family got the funeral painting. If you can show you got that painting, then you get reparations. They'd be like, let me see it in your house. They're like, he's got the painting. He's got the painting. I mean, he's black. He's got the painting. It's obvious.
I told you.
I just think they'd be real slick about, so, like maybe Antoine gets 300,000 and Brandon gets 450, or I don't know. I just don't really trust the rollout.
That's fair
enough.
I agree.
Throughout the entirety of this symposium, I just want you to know your boy has stayed winning. So I just want to put
reparations is an easy fix, is an easy way to do it. But they're not going to do it. And I'm telling you right now, this is the best way to do it. Black people in this country should be tax-free for the duration of the time that we did not have all our rights, period. And if you want to find out who's black and who's not, there's these things called jobs, where you got to fill out everything that gives you a race and everything else. Can't juke that system, buddy. It's already there.
Yeah, but part of the problem is, like, how many generations do you have to have been here in order to get reparations? I mean, do you have to be able to trace your lineage back to slavery?
Hey, look, that's for the government to figure out.
And that's where
that's the inherent problem.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, hear me out now.
Okay, go on.
All right.
Go on. You know what I'm saying?
Now, if you go through on someone's job application and you see that they checked off black and their name sounds European, more than likely, that's who's going to get these breaks.
Now hold on. I don't want to.
Hold on.
Hold on, Coney, because I'm gonna betray your trust.
Ain't no Joneses in Zimbabwe.
Just for a second, I'm gonna betray Coney's trust for a second. Okay. You know what I'm gonna say already. So
I was actually getting ready to say it myself. Go ahead.
Okay, well, no, you go ahead, because I don't want to have to. You can go ahead and do it.
So to that end, and this is no doubt, I can't make.
You're the worst for this. You are the worst for this.
I can't make this up. All jokes aside, outside of maybe a handful of instances, I've checked other since '95, and I did that on purpose. So my aunt is a teacher, and long story short, one of my aunts was a teacher, was talking about standardized testing, yada yada yada, and she told me in North Carolina at the time they were judging scores differently based off of what race you checked. And so literally from there, a combination of that and a combination of I worked in corporate America for I don't know how long. I even changed my resume. My resumes have my full name on there. I worked with a headhunter. They're like, nope, take up the Dante. It sounds too black. Or like, you're not going to get hired. So I took out the Dante and went to Brandon D. Coney, got hired on job applications, or whenever I be presented by a headhunter or even myself, I check other, because that's going to get me in the door. That's going to get me in the interview.
What you're going to be is one of the others paying taxes. That's what you're going to be. So congratulations on juking the system. Enjoy paying your taxes.
But literally, like I literally have done it because I've done it so the system couldn't screw me.
Well, but my plan, you're screwing yourself.
I like the idea, Greg. I like the idea. I just think that it'll be. I mean, it's near impossible to get unemployment, for goodness sakes. Like to get something like reparations, I can't even imagine how much.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, that's why the easiest way to do it is just through the tax system.
Yeah, but they're not going to do the easy thing, man. They're not going to make it easy.
I know they're not going to do it. I know this is never going to happen. I'm just saying we're going to do it.
Yeah, no, that's defeatist. Okay?
Mine.
That's defeatist, man. You can't turn around talking like that, man.
Look, this is about victimhood. I'm a victim, brother.
Shut up. Shut up.
But that's the issue, though, right? Is that I'm with TJ on that. Everything that has been given to us has been given with a caveat, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's always something that's like a trap door. And people never see it coming until either years later or way beyond that. So what does reparations really look like, you know? Because then you're going to have people also, the same way some white people, a shitload of them try to be victims now, are going to be like, oh, you know what? I got some black in me. Give me some more of that money. Or whatever it is you handed out.
23 and me all of a sudden. It's 23 and me all day.
I don't want to. I don't.
Reparations.
You got Becky running around here talking about, I just slept with Jamal yesterday. I got black in me right now.
I got it in me. I got it in me. I speak King Swahili.
Wow.
No, I was playing.
I told you what reparations looks like to me. It looks like when it's $9.99, it's $9.99. That's what.
All right, man.
Give me back my penny.
In spite of all of our banter on this serious topic, which I think that we did a lot with, honestly. I'm gonna have the go around as far as the last word. I'll start on the person, at least on my screen, who's to the right, which is Greg. Greg, go ahead, man. Your final thoughts on the idea of Black victimhood.
Well, I mean, it's something that in this country, without a complete and total overhaul and turnaround and re-education of every citizen in this country, it's gonna be Black victimhood, at least people that have a Black victimhood mentality. And until this country is over and done, which is in about 30, 40 years. But until this country is over and done, that will be held as a viewpoint, because at this point it is almost a standard. It's almost, it would be weird in some way if you didn't understand that you were a victim in some sort of way in this country based on things. If you don't have that understanding that at some point there has been some kind of victimhood or victimization of you, either you're blind, you're stupid, or you don't care. So in order for you to not have that mentality, you'd have to realign the entire system till it's 100% equal, and then they're going to make sure it's 100% equal. Till that happens, that's just what it's going to be for most Black people.
Coney.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that wholly entirely. I think that this is a systemic issue. It is an educational issue. It is a wealth issue. It's also a time issue, and Father Time is undefeated. This is something that we've had to deal with for generations. And until the slate can be wiped really clean, everybody starts off literally from zero from the standpoint. Not going to change, unfortunately. And to the point that was, I guess, brought up earlier and discussed earlier, how do we change the narrative or change the thought process behind people having the attitude of them being a victim? Education, tutoring, reaching out, doing community service, doing whatever you can to educate the person who may not have had a positive figure in their life to teach them. That's, you're a Black man. Here are the things, here are the strikes that you already have against you. Now go out there, kick ass, and don't let any of the things that you know are already charged against you hold you back from doing it. There are people who haven't heard that in their lifetime, so do what you can. I've been tutored and mentored. I still do it now. Reach out to young Black kids. Them that they're loved, show them they're important. Show them the things that you wish somebody would have told you when you were 8 years old. Yeah.
Good stuff. Antoine.
Yeah, much along the same lines as everybody else. I think until it's acknowledged, the problem would never be fully eradicated. And so I think that the best thing that you can do is, I'm definitely going to echo Comey there, just educate, tutor, meet people where they are, and bring them forward that way. And I think that's the path to a solution. Do I think it's going to be fixed anytime soon? No, because the biggest change of tide that would happen, it would have to have white people admit to their wrong and faults and be open to the discourse there. Not the victims themselves worrying about, hey, I'm a victim, and here's all the reasons why. And the people who victimize them turning the other cheek or pretending they don't hear it or pretending they don't see the evidence that highlights just those points. So there's no two ways around it. I think somebody touched on, I think it was you, Audrey, about the critical race theory. And when I see people standing against that so vehemently, and then having the nerve to say, oh yeah, well, you're going to make these white kids feel guilty. It's not about guilt. This is about fact. When people were brought to this country against their will, and if we were all 5 family members, we were sent in 5 different directions in a place that you've never been to before and would never see these folks again. That's a harsh life to live. You know what I'm saying? That's ripping away somebody's identity and ripping away the very thing that kind of maybe makes them whole. So having the ideology that these same folks are just going to pull themselves up by the bootstraps, this ain't about money. This is about mindset. This is about mentality. This is about the ability to say, you know what? This is how we go forward.
TJ.
Wow, how do you follow all that stuff? Those guys really laid it out. I'll just say for those that may, look at this conversation and kind of have the attitude of, oh, here they go again, whining, blah, victimhood, whatever, blah, blah. Let me just say that, all races have probably been the victim of something, right? But Black Americans specifically is kind of a specialized case. I mean, there's legislation that was put in place to keep Black people down. I mean, that is starkly different than what most races are going to experience anywhere in the world, really, right? And to dismiss that, these people are crying out, hey, we're being oppressed, hey, this is not fair. For you to dismiss that and say, well, yes, it is, I think is utterly absurd, considering there's legislation in place that speaks to the contrary, right? So despite that, we're all still here, right? And like God said, some of the most staunch American attitudes that you'll find in this country are from Black people, because a lot of us do feel a deep-rooted sense of ownership of this country, because this country was built on our labor, whether you like it or not. Those are the facts. But we cannot allow the fact that we have been victimized to put us in a space where we kind of lean on that as a crutch and use it as a reason not to strive, right? We still have to do that as a people. I agree with everyone here about educating our youth. I think that's really the key. And maybe, I've always said this, so forgive me for saying it again, but kind of pointing them towards the law, right? I had just mentioned legislation. So, there are communities of people that are stereotyped in a good way as being, aspiring to be certain things in their career, engineers for some races, doctors for some races. I would personally like to see Black Americans be stereotyped as being like lawyers, right? If our if we have a generation of youth that aspire to be lawyers, at the very least, they'll know and understand their rights. They'll be in the room when legislation is being put forth, right? They'll have a voice, they'll have understanding, they'll be able to operate in more of a monolithic fashion than we do today, right? I mean, I know that we're seen as a monolith, but we are absolutely not, right? We like every other race struggle to try to unite to I guess to propel ourselves forward. Anyway, I may be going off topic a little bit, but I guess long story short, we have been victims throughout the history of this country, but I think it's pretty obvious that we have not allowed that to keep us down. I mean, you can find a lot of great Black Americans throughout the history of this country. We're strong, we're proud, we'll continue to do so.
So to try to wrap this all up, the thing that occurs to me is everything that we've gotten in this country has had bodies behind it. Everything. There isn't a single legislation that has been passed that has gotten us to quote unquote an equal footing. There hasn't been a single movement that hasn't happened to get us to equal footing where people haven't died behind. And our sacrifice has actually paved the way for everyone else, right? I was just listening to something today that's talking about disability rights advocates, right? They wouldn't even have had the space to have that voice if it wasn't for our sacrifice in the beginning, marching, dying, getting dogs sicked on us, Bull Connor, so on and so forth. When I think of the idea of victimhood and the way that some people look at it, it is akin to me to how people look at rape victims in terms of women, saying that, well, maybe it was your fault for going to the bar, or maybe it was your fault for wearing that. And it's like, no, I was just there. I was just doing what I do, and then I was taken advantage of. And yet we're told time and time again, even if that's the case, you still have to have personal responsibility in the situation and find a way out of it yourself. Because God forbid if you guys were to help us out or feel any pity for us. Although that's a generalization, that's how I usually look at this conversation. It's like, it brings me back to a quote from one of the most quotable movies I've ever seen, which is Troy. To call a man dead is no disrespect to the guy if he's actually dead. You know what I mean? Like, that's not disrespectful. So to call Black people victims of some of the things that have happened in this country is not being disrespectful, or it's not being overselling it, because we are victims. Now, we can choose to get up or do the best we can with that, or prevent or the rest of our generations from becoming that. But to simply dismiss the history and to dismiss the legislations and dismiss the mistreatment throughout all the centuries of this country, to say, well, you're just playing the victim, it's very short-sighted. So that's it from us, man. Thank you for a great 2021 as far as Black advancement goes. Thank you all for watching. You can see us on Facebook. It's The Black Advancement. On Twitter, we're at BA Inc. 44. On IG, we're BA _ Inc. _ 44. Or you can check us out at our website, which is blackadvancement.com. Till next time, everybody, peace in advance. Y'all know what it is. I'm gonna stop this recording right now.